In this video, I'm going to share with you the 7 elements you need to become a world-class transformational coach, as well as build a successful, long-lasting coaching business in today's massively disrupted, hyper-distracted world. All right, well, welcome to this webinar, 7 elements to be a successful, life-changing, transformational coach in our current society. I think all of these, concepts are concepts, right? Principles are principles. And there are really important elements that are important today, uniquely today with what's going on, that I want to jump into as well. So I am Sean Smith. I'm going to mute everyone. If you want to say something later, we can open it up a little bit later. So I'm Sean Smith. That's me. I'm the founder of Elite Coaching University, and I'll tell you a little bit more about myself here shortly. So let's start with what you're going to get on this webinar. We're going to talk about what it really takes to achieve advanced mastery level confidence. This webinar is for people who are coaches or want to be coaches at some point in the future. And the way I want you to filter this information is, this is important for really anybody to succeed in any program nowadays. And if you want to be a coach, as I believe most of you do, then this is about succeeding in your coaching business as well. But what I mean by this is, I want you to consider a lot of these things that I'm sharing with you so that you can do with your clients. Because what's going to make a human succeed is going to be applicable to most areas of learning. So I want you to think of this whole webinar through those couple lenses. We'll talk about these 7 elements to magnetically attract success and grow your business the right way. We'll talk about how to gain embodied certainty, that certainty in your body, not just in your mind, and the 4 levels of learning that can improve your skills so you can become a better coach and transform your business. This last one is, I think, something that a lot of people aren't focused on as potential coaches. I think a lot of people are not focused on as trainers in the coaching industry, because we just want to get to the money so fast, right? Our society is driven by microwave success, and people just want to learn how to make money, how to get sales, how to increase the vanity metrics of the business, right? How to increase your email list, how to increase your followers on social media. And all of those things are relevant. They're just not as important as being a good coach. If you're a good coach and you really firmly believe in your abilities as a coach, you're going to figure most of this stuff out. But if you know how to do the mechanics of business, but you're not a good coach, or you don't have confidence in your ability as a good coach, you're going to sabotage everything. I promise you, you're going to sabotage everything. I would say the main reason most people don't succeed in this industry is actually not because they lack the information. It's because they lack the certainty and the drive that will cause them to do whatever they need to do in order to be successful. And towards the end, I'm going to talk about my program, Elite Coaching Certification Program, which is a way for those of you that are interested in it and are good fits for it. It's a way to get that embodied transformational experience that will completely change the game in your certainty level and confidence. So this is a little bit about me. See a picture of my wife there in Paris. We've been married 22 years. My children there, got a picture of my son and my daughter. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a speaker, coach, and an author. My story in personal development really started when I was 13 years old. December 17th, 1986. I was riding my bicycle to school, and I avoided trying to get, or I didn't avoid trying to get hit. I avoided getting hit by a woman who had crossed the stop sign coming into the intersection as I was riding through the intersection on my bike. And as I swerved to the left to try to avoid getting hit by her, I pulled right out into traffic and right in front of a guy doing about 50 miles an hour. And the details of the accident probably say that should have been my last day, on earth. There's no way that I should have survived that. But I did. obviously, and my whole life shifted that day. I realized that we're not promised our next breath. I was high on life in the morning and I was almost dead in the afternoon. And so I just made a few promises to myself. One of them, the most important one, being that if I don't know when my life is going to end and I don't have any warning, then I want to live in such a way that I'll never look back with regret about how I lived. And specifically, I told myself that I would never settle for a life of mediocrity. But that promise to myself wasn't enough, because for the next couple decades, I was still underachieving. And then in 2005, I was in a seminar and a life coach did a process on me, and in about 15 minutes completely shifted my entire world. I had a neurological experience, a neurological shift where my body felt different. I felt lighter. I went home. My wife asked what happened to me. And I've been driven ever since that day in a crowded hotel lobby of 2005 to share that experience with as many people as will listen. And a few years later, I created my own brand of coaching called transformational coaching, based on that neurological shift that I'd had and experienced. And so I've been doing this work for over 15 years in the personal development field. I've been helping coaches build their businesses for over 10 years and really studying what works, what causes people to succeed in a coaching business and what causes people to fail. And some of them are just human behavior challenges and problems, and some of them are specific to the coaching industry. So I'll share a lot of those with you today in terms of what I've learned. In 2013, I entered a speaking contest and was fortunate enough to win, and I went one bullet ahead. And shortly, in a few months, I'll be releasing my first book that I've been collecting evidence from coaching primarily women for 15 years, which is the father-daughter relationship, all about self-esteem and parenting. And it's called Daddy, Are You Proud of Me? It's going to be my first published book, at least as me as the only author. I've been in one or two collection types of books, but I've been through a lot, and I share all of that with you just because I want you to understand where a lot of my philosophies are coming from. I started this before social media was even a thing, before social media marketing started to really kick in, which was probably 7 to 8 years ago, when it really started to pick up speed. And so a lot of the tactics that are taught nowadays weren't even around when I started my business. And so I've been able to create some pretty good success and then have to adapt into a lot of the things that we now know. So if any of you've decided to become a coach in the last 5 to 7 years, what you're being taught is quite often not foundational. It's fadational. I never thought of that word. It's based on fads. It's based on things that are actually unstable. It's based on social media platforms or different kinds of technological delivery mechanisms and just various things that can come and go. And what's missing a lot, I think, for most people, which is why so many people fail, is the foundational principles of building a business that will cause you to be able to maneuver and adjust according to what society is doing. And our society is being turned upside down and inside out right now. So people that don't have foundational stability are in a really bad space. And there are a lot of businesses, a lot of coaching businesses, a lot of personal development businesses, a lot of businesses across the board that already have not been able to survive this uprooting of our society. And it's because they don't have the foundation, right? Now, having said that, foundation is usually not the sexy stuff that people are actually interested in, but it is the stuff that actually works. So that's what I'm going to teach you on this webinar, because that's what I've learned. And I'm not interested in teaching you short-term or temporary or microwave fixes, and then, an algorithm changes here and there, and you don't have a leg to stand on anymore. So let's talk about what our world is experiencing right now. Our entire world is in a state of massive, massive disruption, and everything has changed. Our climate's changed, the game has changed, the people have changed, the market has changed, the leadership has changed, the rules have changed on pretty much all level. You've got a massive racial upheaval happening right now. You've got, at least in the Western world, in our country, you've got a big political divide happening right now that's tied to the race and tied to the COVID and all the things that are causing our society to really be uprooted at a level that I've never seen in my lifetime. And people are unnerved. People are dealing with anxiety. People are dealing with unfamiliar territory. And if you don't adapt to that, then you can't win. Because when people change, and your market is actually people, then you need to make sure that you change with the changes of the people. Because if you just try to force people to do the same thing that they used to do, or do what you're comfortable with, but they've shifted, their desires have shifted, their metrics of trust has shifted, then you just can't do this. You can't serve people if you don't adjust with them when they change. And so leaders in all walks of life have to be flexible. Leaders have to be creative. Leaders have to be willing to adjust. Leaders have to be willing to pivot. They have to be more committed to what their outcome is rather than the previously paved path. And leaders need to be more committed to laws, not rules. The people that were committed to the rules of 2019 have no chance in 2018, because almost none of those rules apply in just about any area of life. So you've got to be committed to the laws of business, the laws of human behavior, the laws of transformation. And that's what gives you the ability to adjust if necessary. So I want to share with you these 7 elements that are required in my experience to be a successful, life-changing, transformational coach. I'll run through the elements and then I'll break each one of them down a little bit further. Number 1 is you have to understand the human brain. Number 2 is you have to be a language cop. It's one of my favorite concepts. We'll dive into that. Number 3, you have to have a powerful support community. Number 4, you have to have structured implementation with feedback. Number 5, a certainty in your skill set in this deep belief change work. Now, again, the context here is if you want to be a transformational coach, if you really want to help shift people's entire lives, then this is where I'm coming from. It's the world that I've been playing in for 15 years, and it's the only one that I really speak about. Number 6 is you have to have an embodied self-trust. And number 7, you've got to be willing to go through, and you have to have experienced some personal transformation on your own. So let's dive into each one of these individual. Number 1, understand the human brain. We're dealing with humans, and humans don't change based on new information. We all have access to information like we've never had before. Humans don't have a knowledge problem when it comes to changing behavior. People don't fail at changing their behaviors because they don't know how. They fail at changing their behaviors because they have an implementation problem. They don't actually do the work, or they don't do it at a sustainable level to where the behaviors will change from an inside out perspective. We can threaten ourselves or use accountability or use various forms of behavioral shifts, but not for long-term change. And there's a difference between change in the behavior and a change in the behavior. And a change in the behavior, which is the person, will naturally lead to a change in the behavior. But a change in the behavior will not necessarily lead to a change in the behavior, and I'll say it very, very rarely will. But that's what so many people are focused on, is just changing with the implementation, with the information up at a surface with an F, surface level. So if you understand the human brain, you got to know that there are 7 main drivers of behavior. One of those is values. Values means what's important to us. Whatever is important to us will determine the choices that we make. And every choice that we make is going to lead to momentum, and that will either serve or not serve us making changes in our behaviors. Beliefs is something that a lot of people are talking about in the coaching world. We talk about limiting beliefs a lot. A belief is nothing more than a story that's repeated. So when we have a belief, because a story has been repeated over and over and over again, it's just something that we believe is true. We just think it's true. Our beliefs are very, very rarely true, like actual truth, but they feel true. And that's why our beliefs have such a major influence on our lives, because it feels like they are the truth. And it's very difficult to make a behavior change without first making a belief change, because the beliefs are created from, the behaviors are created from the beliefs. And if you change your behaviors but don't change your beliefs will just manifest those old behaviors or create a new behavior that has the same sabotaging outcome as the old one. If you take one sabotaging mechanism away, your beliefs will just come up with another one. But if you make changes at the belief level, then you can actually make much easier changes at the behavior level. The third one is identities. Those are the things that we see ourselves through. So our identities are who we are and who we want to be. And it's, again, really difficult to take somebody and change a behavior that's misaligned with their identity. So if you have an identity of always coming in last place, you can learn the rules of winning, but your identity is going to sabotage you because the rules of winning don't match with your identity of always coming into last place. Or if you have an identity tied to your weight, or you have an identity tied to your relationships, you have an identity tied to money, those are always going to overpower whatever information that you have. The fourth one is definitions. There are several distinct concepts that we define. These are dichotomous concepts, such as pain, pleasure, right? Every single action that we take is an attempt to seek pleasure and avoid pain. But your definition of pain could be different than mine. So we're both seeking or avoiding the same thing, but our definitions are different. So if I'm your coach and I'm coaching you on my definition of pain and you have a different definition of pain, well, I'm doing you a huge disservice. But I won't have that distinction, obviously, if I don't understand what's going on below the surface here. So one of the best things we can do as coaches is help people identify all of these drivers, right? Definitions being one of them. What's your definition of what's good or bad? We're always trying to preserve our identity as a good person. We're always trying to avoid feeling like or being judged as a bad person. We're always wanting to do the good thing and avoid doing the bad thing. We always want to do the right thing. We think doing the wrong thing is bad or that equals failure. So how we define these things is critical if we're going to make any kind of a shift. The fifth one is fear. Fears are based on protection and preservation. Fears are based on preserving what we're already familiar with, preserving our ego, preserving our identities, preserving our beliefs, and protecting ourselves from pain, protecting ourselves from unfamiliar things, protecting ourselves from danger. And fears it's so critical to understand the energy of fear. The way most people attack fear will never work because they're using the wrong kind of energy to try to force a change or try to use willpower or motivation to move through our fears. And that's only going to work never, because that's not how fears were created. If you don't understand how the fears are created and you can't help a client get to the bottom of their actual fears, then the best you have is just motivational willpower, which is not a very strong fuel, nor is it a long-lasting fuel. The sixth one is habits. There's a lot of focus on habits. And I think what's really important is that you take a look at what the consistency of a habit is. What do we do like clockwork? Whatever you do like clockwork will command your results. But most of us perform our habits when we feel like it. So our habits are also driven by and dependent on motivation. And if you go to the gym when you feel like it, or you eat healthy when you feel like it, or you follow a certain routine when you feel like it, you're not going to produce any kind of predictable outcome, because your actions are dependent on your feelings, and your feelings are unstable. As long as you're a human, your feelings are unstable. So if you're basing your success on unstable feelings, then there's not going to be any kind of predictability there. And then finally, embodied experiences. What we've felt in our bodies throughout the course of our lifetime is actually a much bigger indicator of our behavior than anything that we stuff in our head. We choose what we're going to do and what we're going to avoid based on what our body has lodged in it as experiences. And there's a lot of research now that says our bodies and our hearts specifically actually make choices faster than our heads can even collect the information to then make a decision on, right? So you might get a decision, or you might get a bunch of information from your intellect, and by the time you start chewing on that information, your body has already decided whether you like somebody or not. Your body has already decided whether you're going to take this action or not, or whether you're going to get up on stage or not, or whether you're actually going to succeed or not. Your body's already made these decisions, usually at a deep, deep unconscious level, based on our previous experiences. So if you want to be a coach that provides transformation for people, we got to do surgery. We got to go in and understand these concepts. Now, of course, this applies to you too. So if you're struggling in any area of your life, it's because of these 7 things, I promise you. Now, when you understand how the human brain works, this stuff actually becomes incredibly simple. And now it's just a matter of identifying what is this human's system of beliefs. What are the values that this human is using to make his or her choices? What are the definitions of right or wrong here? What are the identities that this person's fears are trying to protect? And what's the ego that this person is trying to preserve? When you understand these elements at a deep level, it might seem like it's really difficult, but it becomes incredibly simple very quick. And what most people are doing is playing at the intellectual level. And even though it seems like it might be simple when we're told, all you got to do is take this pill and you'll lose all the weight, or all you got to do is follow these steps and you'll make all your money, or all you got to do is do exactly what I did and you'll build a business just like I did. Our intellect is craving simplicity, but it leads us to be tempted to follow things that actually won't work. So that's the catch-22 that a lot of people are in, is the stuff that we're searching for is actually the stuff that will keep us on the hamster wheel. It's not the stuff that will actually create a shift in our lives. So this is all elements of being a really good transformational coach. And the second piece here, when you understand how the human brain works, the second piece here is language. Language is a direct line into our beliefs, because most of us don't speak with any level of conscious awareness. So if you really pay attention as a coach, you'll hear people's beliefs show up in their language. You'll hear people's definitions. You'll hear people's values. You'll listen to all these things from a completely different angle. And then it's ridiculous and comical sometimes, but super fascinating to me how people spew out their conflicts without even knowing it, right? Or people will say things that have the solutions to their problems in words and they don't even realize that they just said it. Or they will make a statement and there'll be this massive gap in the energy. And as a language cop, understanding what is happening at a deeper level, that we just dive in. Whatever we notice, we just dive in. Here's the cool thing about transformational coaching. Once you understand human psychology, once you understand human behavior, once you understand trauma, once you understand beliefs and all these things that I'm sharing with you, you can show up with that level of awareness and that level of certainty and help anybody with anything in front of you. I mean, in 15 plus years, I've not seen, whether it's my business or a seminar that I've gone to or all the certifications I've gone to, I've not seen a human who's unable to transform. I've just seen a lot of humans who are unwilling to transform and a lot of coaches who don't have the skills or the awareness or the confidence or the certainty to facilitate transformation. But humans can transform, especially all of the emotional stuff that we typically deal with, right? And so if you're listening to the language, you'll catch all the things. You'll catch their drivers, you'll catch their conflicts, and they will tell you what they want you to talk about, actually. They'll tell you where they want you to take them. They'll tell you where they don't want to go. And more often than not, that's exactly where we'll go, right? So listening to their language, it's like they're giving you the playbook and they don't know it because we don't pay attention with our consciousness, nor do we even understand a lot of this stuff. So even if we were paying attention, we can't catch driver conflict when we don't understand drivers or conflict, right? So even if we were paying attention, we wouldn't catch a lot of this stuff because this is the below the surface that actually creates human performance, right? This actually drives human behavior. So you're going to hear what they're saying, and more importantly, you're actually going to hear what they're not saying, and you'll learn to listen to their heart. You'll learn to listen to their soul. You'll learn to listen to their intuition. You'll learn to listen to a different voice. And when you hear that voice, then you'll be able to act on it. And all of this is predicated on understanding the unconscious mind, what it wants, what it's afraid of, and how to communicate to it. And when you get how the unconscious mind operates, now you can identify as well as use as a coach empowering language versus disempowering language. You can be an implied communicator or a literal communicator, or you can identify the distinctions between that in somebody's relationship or just with themselves. You can be much more specific with your language and guide your clients to specificity in their language, which is so, so critical. You can use hypnotic language, which helps you embed certain ideas or makes the client a little bit more open to shift and open to catching lessons that they hadn't been seeing before and so forth. So it's really about understanding the human brain and using language in order to advocate for transformation. That's essentially what this is. The third thing that's required, both for you as a coach and if you're providing programs for clients, is a powerful community support system. This is one of the things that is most overlooked and undervalued in my experience. Most people don't realize how much they need it because it's not something sexy, and it doesn't make sense to the intellectual mind that you really need community support. But these kinds of support systems and structures and groups provide several things that are actually big, big needle movers one way or the other. But again, people don't know they are, so they're not looking for it. But it provides a space for collaboration. It provides celebration. It provides connection. And it provides a collective shared journey. And most people don't know that they need all of those things. They just think they need the information and they need the willpower and they need the discipline, and then they'll just go do it. But it's just not true. And again, I'm reporting from 15 plus years in this industry. It's critical to have encouragement. It's critical to know that you've got a bunch of other people that are on a similar path as you. It's critical to know that you will mess up and everybody has messed up. And it's critical to learn from other people's mistakes, right? It's critical to get involved in a lot of these conversations that are going to shorten your learning curve and increase your confidence or increase your certainty. If you don't have that community support system and you're just trying to go at all of this alone with the internal obstacles that you have without other people going, oh, that worked for me too, or I wouldn't look at this, or what, have you ever thought about this, or what about this subtitle for your book? It's so critical. And I think people's egos are usually what causes them to not use or not seek out this kind of support. And your ego is only going to preserve what you already know. Your ego will never lead you to growth. Your ego will never lead you to growth because that's not what it's designed to do. So what you need is new perspectives, different perspectives. You need people to see in your blind spots and people to constantly keep you moving, constantly pull you when you need to be pulled, maybe push you when you need to be pushed, and you will help other people as well. The energy of serving other people with what you know is also a really important piece to this kind of community support. The fourth thing is what I call structured implementation and feedback. With feedback. Structured implementation. I think a lot of people know that they're supposed to implement, but if there's not a structured way to implement, if there's not a structured path, most people won't implement. So like in the coaching world, if I tell somebody you need to go do 20 practice coaching sessions, their brain goes, oh, okay, I get it. 20 coaching sessions. I'm going to do that sometime. Or maybe they get motivated and they book 4 coaching sessions. And then the next time they get motivated, they'll do it again. That's how people quit. Because without the implementation, the information is useless. And the longer you retain useless information, the less likely you are to take action. But a structured implementation system is critical because you're going to be guided through the process. You're going to be guided through the practice. Somebody else will basically be saying, just do this, right? Do this exercise, do this assignment, practice this particular tool. Go out and ask this many people to do this many things, or post this on your page. There's got to be a level of structured implementation. And that doesn't mean that everything is going to work across the board for the, in the same way for the same people. And that's a little bit of the catch-22 here is we need structure, but we don't need guaranteed systems, right? But without the structure, most people just won't implement. So there are partner exercises that are important. There are small groups that are important. There are large group demos, especially in the coaching world, that are critical. And the bottom line is you won't move as quickly without this group support and the group accountability and the group celebration. And you'll be pulled by the energy of the group, and it'll just speed everything up. It'll shorten your learning curve. It'll deepen your learning, and it'll create a lot more momentum so that everything that you're trying to do will be amplified. If all you do is learn the tools or the skills or the exercises, this is what happens with a lot of people in the coaching industry. If you just learn the information, you could understand the information and intellectually you'll go, oh, okay, I get it. But you don't know how to use them. You don't know how to actually implement, right? What's more important than the machine is the mechanic, meaning you need to learn and understand and have certainty in how to use the tools, when to use the tools, when to adjust off of a tool, rather than just understanding the step-by-step exercise rules. Let's say, I'm putting those in quotes. It's so much more critical for you to be a good coach than for you to learn coaching skills. And I hope you're understanding the distinction here. And that's why implementation is so critical. And that's why structured implementation with feedback is so critical. With the feedback, and this is not unique in the sense that it's not important anywhere else, but it is unique in the personal development world in the context of coaching in this industry. You have to study this work. You have to see different people use the same tool over and over and over again so that you see the different ways it can be used. You've got to dissect what you just saw. You have to have what you experience dissected by people who have more experience than you. You have to discuss, you have to study from all these different angles. If you really want to master a trade, master a skill, it's like the 10,000 hours concept, right? Very few people put anything near the required amount of time to become a master at it. And so a lot of people are marketing unmastered skills. You can be a master of marketing if you're not a master of coaching. It will overpower, it will outperform your marketing mastery. I promise you that. I've only seen it all the time for 15 plus years. And there were times when I experienced that as well. So you've got to have that mastery level skill in your coaching ability. And part of the feedback is obviously to learn from your community, but specifically what did work well, what didn't work well, and how would you pivot? A lot of people are learning their coaching in a vacuum, like with blinders on, right? Either they have one coach or they just focus too much in a restricted way without opening up their awareness and opening up their perspectives of, what about this? Have you ever thought about this thing? And what I generally do is that. And when you feel that kind of resistance or somebody answers the question that way, how about you pivot this way, right? That we've got to study the art of coaching, not the science of coaching, way more. You want to be an artist more than a scientist. A scientist is the one that says, when somebody says this, you say that all the time. And then when you say that, they'll come back and they'll say this. Coaching is not mathematical. Coaching doesn't happen according to formulas. Coaching happens, transformational coaching happens with deep, deep rooted certainty and then a ton of flexibility. In 15 years, I've not had 2 coaching sessions that went similar to each other. So you've got to own the responsibility of mastery in order for you to actually collide with humans and be able to shift, be able to pivot. And the reason that a lot of people don't is because they don't go through this kind of learning. They don't really dissect, and they don't really commit, and they don't really have this intentional structure. And with transformational coaching, one of the things that I've learned is there is somewhat of a sequence in terms of how you practice, right? You should practice this before you practice that, because they sort of work on top of each other. So there's a paved path that needs a lot of flexibility inside of it. But if it doesn't have the pavement, if it doesn't have the guidance and the accountability and support and all the things that we're talking about, then most humans are not going to follow it. A big part of these discussions are what we call could haves. You could have done this. Not you should have, but you could have. You could have asked about the wedding ring. We were doing a demo last week or the week before, and during the demo, somebody started playing with her wedding ring. And so we talked about that afterwards, like, oh, you could have dove in and seen if the wedding ring had something to say, or just check in with this. And sometimes we'll catch people, playing with their ears or twirling their hair or pausing while they say certain things. And the collective wisdom of the could haves is so, so powerful. And it will elevate your experience well beyond what your individual experience is. So you can actually get some of this embodied learning at a much bigger level and a much more rapid pace than if you just do all the stuff yourself. So you're going to increase your ability to use the tools. You're going to increase the tools in your toolbox. And that's really what structured implementation guidance is. The fifth thing is skill set certainty. Now, this is partly a byproduct of what I just talked about. When you go through the process of dissection and discussing and learning from the community, then you're going to have a lot more certainty in your skill set. But if you want to be a transformational coach, your certainty has to be aligned with what your outcomes are in terms of your work. So if you want to change people's lives from a transformational standpoint, if you really want to change people's forms, if you want to give them a complete new experience on the planet, well, then you need to get good at transformational work. And that's different than informational work. The two main buckets of coaching, in my opinion and my philosophy, is information versus transformation. Now, there's nothing wrong with informational coaching. If you want to give people information about how to save money or about how to invest in a stock market or about how to do real estate or about how to lose weight or whatever, you can transfer your information. Just know that information has never changed a human life. Only the implementation of the information can change a human life, and the implementation of the information requires all the things I'm talking about. So if you want to be a transformational coach, then you've got to study that. It's like the difference between snorkeling and scuba diving. You don't need much training to snorkel. You don't need any training to snorkel. You just don't go too far below the water, and you'll always be able to breathe out of your little snorkel tube, and you'll be good. And as long as you stay close to the surface of the water, that you can see all the stuff. And if you don't, mess up the rules of snorkeling, then you'll be fine. But you can't take your snorkel gear and dive 15 feet below the surface. So it's really a difference between snorkeling and scuba diving. Do you want to learn how to scuba dive? Do you want to learn how to go deeper with people and make some of the foundational transformations? If you don't, that's fine. But if you want to scuba dive, don't bring snorkel gear, because you'll drown and you won't help anybody. So just make sure that your training is aligned with and committed at the same level of what you want your skills to be. And I say all attempts at behavior change are futile until you address the complete human. Until you understand all the things we've been talking about, you really won't be able to change people's behaviors in a long-lasting way, right? So another piece of skill set learning does involve the intellect, but it involves this intellectual learning with a deeper awareness of and a deeper commitment to how the intellectual learning will be utilized. So obviously there's curriculum with any kind of coaching concept or coaching philosophy. There's how to coach. But the distinction, as I made a moment ago, is how to coach scientifically versus how to coach artfully, right? It's the art versus the science. There are techniques, there are concepts, there are exercises. All of those things are critical at an intellectual level, but embodied implementation is really where the whole game is won or lost. It requires a deeper understanding than the intellectual learning. As I said, the difference between scuba diving and snorkeling. It requires us to get in there, right? It requires us to get in the waters of transformation. We need to bathe in the transformation at a level that is aligned with our commitment. And that requires some inconvenience. That requires some intention. That requires you to clear your calendar sometimes and go to events and hire coaches. It requires you to do the things to study your craft at a deep, deep level, both as a coach, but also as a client, right? You need to be a product of your product. If you're not a product of your product, then it's going to be really, really difficult for you to have certainty in your product because it's not coming from an embodied shift, right? So everything needs to be aligned, and embodied implementation and embodied certainty involves you seeing and feeling what's possible. not just understanding what's possible, but watching what's possible, watching people transform, and then feel the transformation as well. Feel the transformation in the room, but also feel the transformation in yourself when you're experiencing the shifts, right? When you're consuming your product. And you're always going to be doing the work. You need to be doing the work actively instead of just passively learning about it. And when you're in these kinds of environments that I've been talking about so far, you're actively learning, but you're actively practicing, and you're having people actively practice on you too. So that's where a lot of the embodiment happens, is because you're the client also. You have to be a client of the philosophies you coach around. You have to. Otherwise, you can't advocate for somebody around the behavior shifts that you haven't had. And that also doesn't mean that you need to heal every part of your life and, get right in every area before you get to coach. That's not what I'm saying. You can coach while you're being coached, right? You can help people while you're being helped. You can teach while you're learning. But you got to be learning, and you got to be getting help. You got to be getting coached. Otherwise, the energy behind it is going to be a mismatch, and people actually will be repelled because they'll be able to tell. Number 6 is an embodied level of self-trust. And it's based on a lot of things that I've been talking about. And the distinction, or the distinct question I want you to ask is, do you trust you with you? Do you trust yourself in this climate? Now, that climate could be a coaching exercise, or it could be the world that we're living in today. Do you trust you? And do you trust yourself with your own transparency? Do you trust yourself with your own vulnerability? Do you trust yourself with your own emotions? If you don't trust yourself with any of that stuff, then other people won't trust you either, because they'll sense that you don't trust you. And so why would they trust you? And why would they trust you with their stuff, right? Society right now is demanding vulnerable leadership. Society is demanding connection. It's demanding transparency. Society is demanding people be real. And not just now. We've been demanding that for years and years. It's not just related to what's going on in the world right now, but society is demanding truth. Society is demanding things and people that they can trust. And if you're not willing to show up in that kind of way, then they're not going to trust you with their stuff. If you're not willing to trust yourself with your own vulnerability, they're not going to trust you with their vulnerability. And then, of course, you can't be a transformational coach. And number 7 here is, to be a transformational coach, you got to be a transformed human. You got to be a transformed coach, or going through transformation. Now, I'm a snob about this stuff. The coaching industry doesn't have any kind of legal guidelines that says before you hang your hat on the, on the hook, or before you hang your sign outside your door, you have to go through this, this, and that. The coaching industry doesn't have any of these regulations. And so because of that, a lot of people are shortcutting their way into the ring, and they're not prepared. And they're trying to get into these transformational experiences, but they haven't been in the transformational work. So if you really want to create the energy and the magnetism for people to come to you and trust you with their transformation, you have to be a product of the transformation. Otherwise, there's just going to be misalignment. Your prospects will feel it. Your clients will feel it, and they might not let you coach them at a deeper level, at the level that they need you to. And it's that misalignment that's actually one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason, that people don't succeed in the transformational coaching world, is because they don't have a transformational experience that they can actually draw upon, that can fuel them, that they can remind themselves of and that can emanate from their body so that other people get it too. When I had my experience in 2005, my wife asked what happened. My friends were asking what happened. I remember I was at lunch with a friend of mine. He goes, dude, why are you smiling so much? I've never seen you smile like this. How do I get that? When we make significant transformational shifts, people will notice and they'll want some of that. They'll want some of whatever you are experiencing because they see the difference. They see the shift. And your energy is a much better salesperson than your mouth. I don't think I've ever said that before. Your energy is a much better salesperson than your mouth or your marketing skills or your copy or your website. Your energy is what people are really going to want to experience if they like what they see and they like what they hear and they like what they're sensing. They're going to want more of that. And when we embody the transformation, it becomes like we serve people with our saturation, right? We serve people with our overflow of our transformational experiences. And that deep level of commitment, that deep level of advocacy and shift can only come from our personal investments in the work. Time, energy, and money are the three main investments. Money is the least important by far, although it's the thing that people are focused on the most in terms of why they can't do something. And it's also the thing that people will throw away, but not invest the time or the energy, right? It doesn't matter what you pay. You're not going to have a transformational experience without time and energy. So if you want to create this kind of a shift, then you've got to be willing to dive all the way in and be a product of the transformation. So those are the 7 elements. And I understand it's not a 1, 2, 3, one size fits all. Here's how you do a webinar. Here's how you get Facebook followers. Here's how you do Instagram. This is where you should be. This is where you shouldn't be. It's not what your intellect is probably searching for, but it's what your soul needs. And I'm only telling you that from 15 years in the business. And I'm also telling you that from the first 18 months being wildly successful, the second 18 months in my business being wildly unsuccessful that led to a bankruptcy because I made all these ego-driven choices, and I had to go back to foundation. I had to go back to simplicity in order to recover. Most people's experience mirror my second 18 months, but they don't have anything to fall back on. And that's why so many people really struggle. And in that struggle, people are searching for the shortcuts. They're searching for the quick fixes. They're searching for, can I just plug these leaking holes? No, you got to learn how to build a boat. You got to learn how to be driven by your purpose. You got to learn what entrepreneurship actually is. You got to learn how to understand and lead and engage with humans. Most important one being yourself. So I'm a snob, absolutely 100% about this work. And part of it is because it's only changed my life in every single area. Everything in my life is better because of this work. And a lot of it is not my work. It's not stuff that I created, I made up. It's stuff that I experienced, and it's like I want people to know this, right? That's the big thing I was saying at the end of 2005. People got to know this. I never knew that I could make these changes. I never knew that I had these things inside me called purpose and beliefs and memories and traumas and all that. I didn't know this. People got to know this. How come they didn't teach me this in school, right? So I was just surprised and almost disappointed on some level, but that fueled my desire to get people to get it, right? You got to feel how I feel. If you felt how I feel, or if you knew that how I feel is possible, you would run through every wall. You would swim through every ocean you had to. You would go through every amount of fire. You would pay whatever you need to pay. You would take whatever amount of time it needs to take. You would dive all in if you knew what was possible. And that's what I've been driven by for all this time. So what I want to do now is share with you what I've put together, as well as a big announcement about this program, to do all of this work and help you get all of the confidence that I've been referring to as a coach so that you can do this transformational work with others. It's an incredibly intensive, extensive, wide-ranging, deep-diving program. And it's 5 days of experiential learning. I call it Elite Coaching Certification Program. In our community, we call it ECCP. It's all about the comprehensive coaching skills and strategies and the art of coaching, much more than the science of coaching. It's full immersion training, all in. You're in the waters, full immersion training with 4 levels of mastery learning. The 4 levels are intellectual. You're going to learn from the content that I'll be teaching and other coaches will be teaching. You're going to learn from watching what's happening. You know, you'll see demos, you'll see processes that are happening. You'll watch people shift. And so you'll see what's possible with your eyes. The 3rd level is you're going to be practicing a lot of the skills. So you're going to learn a concept, a tool, or an exercise, and you're going to practice with a partner. The 4th level is you're going to be practiced on. So you're going to be the client in a lot of those partner sessions as well. And that last piece is why so many people have such a shift in their life. I mean, just imagine spending 5 days going in on life-changing strategies, studying them, dissecting them, watching them, feeling them, experiencing them, practicing them. How do you walk out of there 5 days later without a fundamental shift in your body, in your neurology, in your thinking? And for so many people, in your business, in your relationships, in your relationship to your body, in your happiness, in your joy. I mean, that's what's available at this kind of a training, and my training specifically, ECCP. And for the first time ever, we're doing it online. For the first time ever, we're doing it online. You know, the world pretty much forced that one. And for a long time, I didn't want to do anything online at this level because I just thought you have to come in person. But you can. There's actually quite a bit that we can do online. We can deliver a lot of the exact same transformational experiences. And the cool thing about this is you don't have to travel. So I know a lot of people in our community have been wanting to come to an ECCP, but they live in Europe or they live in Australia, they live in somewhere else, or they just can't really take, 7 days away for travel a day ahead, travel a day behind, and the 5-day event. Or there's extra expenses for planes and hotels and food and all of that. So you don't have the inconvenience of traveling for this one. You don't have the extra expenses for accommodations and food and all the other things that you might have to spend money on. You get to do it all from home. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be a passive experience. We're still going to create this engaged, transformational, immersive experience. It's just that we're going to pivot a little bit. We're going to pivot based on the details and the circumstances that we have in the world today. And if you want more information, there's a full information page and you can register at coachshansmith.com/ECCP-online. I want to share with you some stories from a few people here. And I'm going to read it word for word, actually, because I really want you to hear what the experience is for a lot of people that have gone through this process, they've gone through this event specifically, and something's going to land for you, I think, in terms of what you're looking for, maybe what you don't even know that you're looking for. So Alex says, I participated in both BCC and ECCP. I can say without a doubt, these have been two of the most transformational experiences I've had in the coaching world. Getting certified through BCC was one of the best decisions I made in my career, and experiencing ECCP was indescribable. Sean has an ability to explain things in depth without drowning you in pointless information, and his teachings have a way of crawling into your soul and equipping you with everything you need to be a leader and a healer. The transformation I received both intellectually and emotionally through his programs continue to be far more valuable than most things I've invested in. I wouldn't hesitate at recommending this work to anyone. Jennifer says, just pretty simply, I grew more in 5 days than I have in 5 years. She had some major transformations. Those of you that were at the same event as her, I know you remember a lot of those. Yolande says, ECCP has equipped me with the skills and tools resulting in high confidence in my coaching abilities. I know that I can help anyone. I know that I can help anyone. Yeah, anyway, that statement just got me like that. I remember the moment where I thought I could help anyone. It was 2007. I was in a seminar with Jack Canfield, and I saw something, and I saw what he was doing with the person, and all of a sudden I just noticed the confidence inside me. I could help anyone. And it required all the things that I've been talking to you about, but it's possible to get to that point where bring me anything you got. Why? Because I know the human can transform. And if I understand what's under the hood of the human brain, then I can facilitate, I can guide transformation. Bring me anyone with anything. I got you. Anyway, that phrase just lit me up a little bit. And Yolande is one of the most powerful coaches around. She says, more importantly, the personal application of what the course teaches has changed my view on life and how I process and navigate my own challenges. The connections, relationships, and bonds that I made with other attendees who are now family are probably one of the biggest perks because I now have support from other coaches in this amazing community. I love this course so much. I've taken it 3 times because each run of the course unfolds in its own unique way. Each course brings new shifts and awareness, producing a better me each and every time. I've decided ECCP is required continuing education for me. It's how I keep growing personally so I can show up as a more powerful advocate. I highly recommend this course to anyone looking to up-level their coaching skills or for their own personal development. Yolande mentioned the community. The community is one of the most valuable components. I mean, could you just imagine like being in a community with a bunch of coaches like for the rest of your life that you can draw courage from, and people that not only will give you an ear, but they can, to share your information, but they can actually help you, right? Like just the spirit of coaching in a big community like this is incredible. And, most people, I would say the most common comment that we get about what do you remember from ECCP or what's the most valuable thing is community. It's what have I learned? I've got friends that I can stay in touch with, or I travel the world and I just have lifelong community, right? Community is such a powerful word. Mara says, ECCP has truly caused a transformation in my life, and I'm looking forward to sharing my journey and helping others transform their lives. I truly owe my progress and shift to ECCP. Michelle says, ECCP is everything you didn't know you needed to do what you didn't know you weren't doing. It's an uncovering, it's an unbecoming, it's creating deep transformation in coaches so they can bring their clients to the same depths they themselves have traveled. It's soul shifting, heart opening, expansive, and connecting. It's belief breaking, cellular shifting, and neurotransformation. You can tell Michelle's poetic, right? It's so much fun, laughter, and tears. It's raw and real. It's truth. It's love. It's sacred space. It's deep connection. It's the essence of embodiment. And it's a must attend for anyone who wants to do the deep work. It's co-creation. It's freedom. It's unleashing. It's healing. It's certainty. It's humanity. Man, those last few got me emotional. And share with everybody, Michelle, if you haven't already. I'm not watching the comments. How many ECCPs you've gone to? That woman's gone through it many times. BCC says Teresa was the foundation, and although provided the tools and background needed, ECCP was the part that gave me certainty and confidence to apply what was learned. Since attending ECCP, My relationship with my husband has significantly improved because of a shift I experienced while just being in the room. That actually wasn't something that she personally was a part of. It was something that she witnessed, and it changed her so fundamentally that it created more connection and joy and freedom and love in her marriage. It was super, super profound. In business, I have been able to apply the tools with individuals as well as group settings. I would not have attempted this prior to ECCP. I trust myself a lot more than before, and I now charge my worth without wavering, and I have been paid for it. Right. So many coaches really struggle with money, what to charge. It's because they don't have the embodied experience and the embodied certainty that will demand prices. Not that it's about getting higher prices, but it will demand your confidence and command, rather, not demand. It will command your confidence in attracting paying clients, regardless of what your prices are. And you can't continue to raise your prices without continuing to raise your certainty. Going through the process and experiencing the techniques was hands down the most valuable part of the program. I have recommended it to others and will continue to do so because I know it will help them personally and professionally. And finally, Carnell says, this program is the absolute representation of the word transformation. I went to become an amazing coach and came out not only that, but what I'm proud to say is an amazing person. There are no words that can ever describe what we all experienced over those 5 days, and no certificate ever received will represent the changes, growth, transformations, and lifetime friendships that occur. If you ever have the opportunity to be a part of this program, do it. No, wait, scratch that. Do whatever you can to be a part of this program. Thank you all for those of you that are listening and provided some of that feedback. It's the depth of experience that made me a good coach. And again, I've been doing this for so long. I've been in over 300 days worth of transformational rooms, transformational certification programs, leading them, participating in them, assisting in them, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of programs, coaching hours, me being the client, thousands of hours, me being the coach, thousands of coaches going through trainings and dissecting why do people succeed and why do people fail? What's the missing component? So that's what is wrapped up into this program. And as I said, it's a 5-day online certification program. You'll get over 20 breakthrough coaching tools, exercises, strategies, concepts, experiences. You'll have a reference manual to use with clients. I was actually online with 2 people today, and it wasn't even, we weren't even talking about ECCP necessarily, but they both had their manuals, right? They're like, I carry my manuals, around like pretty much all the time. And some people have showed me their manuals have all kinds of highlights and they're dog-eared and all kinds of little stickies on them and stuff. And so there's a lot of coaches that just carry it around and literally will coach looking at their manual and just going through the steps or remembering certain concepts, or you have certain tools that are just read the words and watch the human transform, right? Read the words and they lead to transformation. So the manual is a really valuable thing for a lot of people. And the 4 levels of mastery that I spoke to: learning, watching, practicing, and experiencing the coaching. What happened there? Oh, sorry. Let me get back to my slides. I clicked on that link and it opened up the page. During the course of the week, we're going to cover a lot of the inner work exercises, the tools to eliminate emotional conflicts such as guilt and shame and traumas and negative beliefs, and how to overcome the beliefs that are limiting. How do you install and strengthen the beliefs that are serving somebody? How do you create a more expanded awareness in your life? And as a coach, how do you use this expanded awareness to help people, to guide them into their own truth and into their own liberation and into their own transformation? A lot of this course was based on NLP. That's the first set of coaching philosophies, ideologies, and the curriculum that I got certified in many, many years ago, back in 2006, after I had an experience of a life coach who walked me through an NLP process. I said, whatever you did to me, I don't care if it's illegal, you tell me where to go. And he told me where to go. And that's what started my coaching certification and my coaching study. And a big, big part of NLP is called timeline therapy. Some of you might have heard about that. So there are NLP components in this certification, but it's not an NLP class in its entirety. It's much, much bigger than NLP. NLP is just a tool. NLP is part of the machine, but what's more important is the mechanic, right? What's more important is the coach. And then there's so much more. I've experienced many different philosophies, coaching exercises as the client. I've made several up on my own after all the things that I've gone through. And so it's a much bigger holistic approach to transformation. It's not specific to any one ideology. There's components of psychotherapy, and there's just intellectual, intellectual language manipulation, and it's just transformation on all levels. That's really what it is. So that's ECCP. This is a couple pictures of some of the people, and there's just so much joy. I have a connection. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased, but just the faces and the people that come through these communities, just the best people on the planet. It's just amazing. So our next ECCP program, if this is something that you're interested in, starts August 3rd. It's a Monday. It's going to be delivered all online through Zoom, similar to what we're doing here. We're going to have a little bit different levels of engagement, but the time is approximately normal business hours out here on the West Coast in Pacific Standard Time out here in the US, approximately 9 to 5. And there's also a mastermind session on the next day, on Saturday, August 8th. So it's a 5-day event, August 3rd through the 7th, Monday through Friday. And then there's this optional mastermind Saturday event. You don't have to go to that, but it's a mastermind where you can have us help you apply a lot of the things that you just learned, or you can have us help you brainstorm a business. You can help us, or have us rather, help you heal. Like there's really no limit to what kind of support we can give you in that mastermind. It's a limited participant mastermind of 12 people or less on Saturday. That's information that you'll get if you're going to join us, if you're going to register. There's a private Facebook group for support with people that have been to ECCP over the last 5 years. It's one of those support mechanisms that I was talking about, or elements rather, ingredients that are super, super important. Everything will be recorded. We want you to be there live, obviously. We want you to engage. We want you to be asking questions. It's going to be a very intimate experience, even though we'll be at different places on the globe. But if you have to miss, or if you just want to go back and watch them over again, then that's going to be available to you. And, that's something that the live experience never had, is that we don't have any recordings to where you can go back and go, okay, what was said there? And what happened when so-and-so was going through that process, and what was actually asked. And so the ability to go back and relearn and study is really, really powerful. And this will actually be the first ECCP where you'll be able to do that, because everything will be recorded and available to you. And the offer essentially is a neurotransformational experience. I have a very specific intention in mind for you on my end, which is simply to change your life forever. And I say that not because of my ego. I say that because the power of the work and the power of the human spirit, especially people who want to serve others. If you want to be a transformational agent, if you want to be a transformational coach, whether you actually want to be a coach that gets paid for coaching, or you just want to bring this into your family, you want to apply this to a business. Maybe you're in a job and you're a leader on some level at your job, and you want to implement a lot of these things in those different areas of leadership, that will work as well. But especially for people that want to be a coach and want to pass their learning on to other people, what's available will only change your life forever. That's it. So the investment of ECCP is $2,497, just under $2,500 if you can do it in full. If you need a payment plan, we have a payment plan set up for $960 a month times 3. There is a money back guarantee. And what my offer is, attend the first 2 full days, do the work. And if you think it's not for you, if you think I haven't delivered on some of the things that we said we were going to do, then we'll gladly refund you. And, you know, you'll keep everything that you had already received during that time. And that's fine. But we really want you, if you're kind of on the fence and not sure if it's going to be your thing, then try it out, right? Give it a try. What do you have to lose other than all the things that are holding you back, right? And just lighting a fire inside of you, but more than that, being able to light fires in other people. That's what this transformational work is all about. And money is always a conversation for some people. And what I would invite some of you to do is, don't take yourself out just because of the money or just because of the potential inconvenience of the program or any other detail, right? What our intellectual mind generally does when we're offered an experience to grow, our intellectual mind tries to find a justification not to. It's what it does. It's actually one of the main reasons it exists, is to prevent growth. It's not actually trying to prevent growth. It's just trying to prevent danger. But growth equals danger to the intellectual mind, especially the unconscious intellectual mind. So my invitation to you is, don't take yourself out of the running just because your intellect is trying to find reasons why you shouldn't do this. The more your intellect actually finds reasons why you shouldn't do it, more often than not, my experience is, that's probably something that you need to do, right? I don't know how many experiences I've had in the 15 years where I didn't have the money, or I didn't want to fly across the country or another part of the world, or I didn't want to take the time off. But the more that I was finding reasons not to, the more my heart wanted to, right? The more that I was getting this pull. And the more that you're being pulled, I mean, think of it this way. If you were standing in front of me and I started pushing you, you would have to push back with the equal amount of force, right? If I started pulling you toward me, you would have to pull yourself back towards you with an equal amount of force. Otherwise, I would pull you. So when you're having an intuitional pull, when you're having a heart pull, and it's a pretty strong one, then if the brain is going to try to counter that, well, it has to counter with a lot of strong thoughts, doesn't it? There's this equal but opposite concept that shows up in a lot of areas of personal development, and this is one of them. The doubts in our heads usually show up in an equal but opposite intensity level to our desire for something, right? Because if you don't really have much of a desire, then it's like, no big deal. You could just knock yourself out with a simple thought. But the more that you capture yourself focusing on why I shouldn't, that's probably more confirmation that you should. And maybe this message isn't for everybody on the line. You know, maybe some of you want to be all in, and money's not an issue and time's not an issue, and you're in. And maybe some of you just not a good fit and you're all out, and that's cool too. For those of you that are on the fence, don't take yourself out. That's my invitation to you. If you need a conversation with somebody on my team to filter, a little bit about what I said here, anything you see on the website, and see if it's actually a good fit for you individually, we would be happy to get on the phone and offer our perspective and help you see how maybe ECCP can fit into various areas of your life. Or if you have any questions about, are we going to get this here and are we going to get that there, then ask them. And we're more than happy to answer any of those questions. Now, with that tuition, you also get another coaching certification, and this one is all online. In a few of those testimonials you saw, I think a couple of people mentioned BCC. BCC is the prerequisite learning to ECCP. And it is a standalone certification program all on its own. So there are a lot of people that go through BCC and they're good, and they've had business success, or they've had life transformations, because it's a standalone program all on its own. And it's a prerequisite to the work that we'll do in ECCP. So when you register for ECCP, this comes with it, and it sells for $497. You'll get that right away. Just in a few, some of this is manual actually. So you might not get it immediately when your order goes through, but you'll get it very shortly after that. And because we have to manually put people into it, but you'll get it right away and you can start learning immediately. There's 10 modules in there. Each module has the teaching, it has handouts, it has practice sessions and so forth. So it's massively valuable, and you'll be able to start building your skills, your confidence, and your coaching experience even before you get to the ECCP online room. And then I want to throw out another incentive for those of you that are wanting to jump in. You might need a little bit of a nudge, or for those of you that are already, you know that you're in, and you just want to get this as a little icing on top of the cake. So if you register before Sunday, July 5th, then I'll do a 45-minute private coaching session with me. If you were to do that on a one-off call, it'd be $550. And you can use it anytime in 2020. So we could even do it before ECCP if that's important to you, or we can wait till afterwards and help you with some version of the implementation after ECCP. And anything at all, anything goes. It could be personal, it could be related to your business, it could be coaching, it could be anything at all. Just helping you implement as best I can. So that's the incentive. If any of you register before July 5th, again, you can go to coachshansmith.com/ECCP-online, as you can see on the screen there. So I think that's it. Yes, that's it. Bye. One of the things you learn is how to end webinars very abruptly. I haven't been paying attention to any of the comments. So if any of you have been addressing me in the comments and you just think that I am ignoring you, I'm not. But if that's triggering anything in you, then why don't you come to ECCP and we'll help you clear that. All right. So if you have any specific questions that you might have asked already, just re-ask them, please, so that I can see them right here instead of scrolling back through all the comments that have been made. You're welcome, Shanoria. Absolutely. Nikki, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. Julie, it's good to see you here. You are welcome. Oh, cool. Angel says, best program, had numerous light bulb moments. I remember some of those light bulb moments. Absolutely. Right. Oh, cool. Alicia's going to celebrate a birthday during ECCP, apparently. Sweet. Cool. John, thank you for that. I appreciate that. You guys are welcome. Those of you that are saying thank you. And again, if there's any question that you have, we're a pretty easy company to engage with. We don't hard sell people. We don't high pressure people. The offer to change your life and to be able to change other people's lives at a transformational level is good enough. We don't need to dress that up. So I'm not going to throw on $30,000 of, made up value and just, a lot of stuff that we see in the industry. Cause I don't want you to make an urgency based or lack driven decision, right? Like if this is not what you want to be committed to doing, then this ain't the program for you. But if you do have any questions at all, then please let me know. Julie, thank you for that question. I meant to mention that and just forgot, so I appreciate you bringing it up. If you don't have the time to go through all of the modules of BCC, that's fine. Not every module is critical, and what we'll do is have a conversation with you, a one-on-one conversation. If any of you know that you want to do ECCP, but you're not sure if you can get through BCC, we'll get on the phone with you, find out what we need to know that's relevant for, like maybe you've done coaching programs in the past, or just who you are and what you're wanting out of ECCP, so that we can say, okay, based on that, do these modules. And if you can get through these modules, then you'll be good, right? So there are critical modules, but not everybody has the same critical modules because different people are coming in with different experiences or different intentions. So we'll be able to take care of you, Julie, in terms of helping you get the most out of what you need in order to be prepared for ECCP. Angel says, I came there an angry lone wolf veteran and left part of a nurturing dolphin pod. That's amazing. Thank you for that. The nurturing dolphin pod. Oh, cool. Jacinta, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right. Do you offer any group coaching courses? You touch on a few concepts that are important in working with groups. So BCC is a group coaching course. It's just all archived. I did it live. So there was a live group that I was teaching, but now it's archived, so you can go as quickly as you want. So there's interaction in all the modules and demos and asking questions and all of that. There's also a BCC Facebook group. So when you get into that program, you'll be able to have a lot of the support just specific to BCC. And then you'll have another support group for those of you that are going to ECCP that's specific to ECCP. So if you want to experience group coaching, or maybe you just want to watch how something is done at this level, this kind of, transformational stuff, and maybe model it for what it is that you want to do, then maybe it can be a model for you, as well as the content, obviously, that'll help you in doing this work with other people. And you're right. There are some concepts that are really, really, truly important to facilitate learning, and not just learning in general, but human learning in 2020. And I don't even mean the disruption of what's going on in society. We are different animals than we were 20 years ago, right? Fundamentally, we're all human and we have the same base level primal desires and fears and all that stuff. But from a programming perspective, we're all, programmed with technology. We've, depending on what level you've engaged, but we're plugged into social media. We're being bombarded with marketing. The big companies chase us, literally chase us from phone to computer to iPad, and they deliver hyper-targeted marketing. We get movies suggested, videos suggested. The world that we live in has created a human that is hyper-distracted. And the normal human experiences of anxiety and growth and just evolution and becoming a teenager and getting into adulthood and all those things are already complicated. You throw on top of that the social media world, social bullying, all the disconnect that's happening, the keyboard bullies out there, and just the just the mass information age, like it's literally changed the programming of our brains as a species. And if our brains have been programmed differently, then we need to know how to teach that kind of a brain. And I'm being completely, literally serious. So what used to work, let's say 10 years ago, even 15 years ago for sure, in terms of helping humans go through a course, doesn't work anymore because humans are different animals, right? And from this point forward, I mean, we'll never not have technology as a part of our life, right? Those of you that are anywhere near my age, at one point in time, you migrated into technology. You know, maybe it was in high school or in college or a little bit later on in life or something. Our kids nowadays are being babysat by technology, right? It's just a whole different game. So the way we teach and the way we facilitate learning has changed because the human has changed. And similar to what I was saying earlier about the disruption in the society now, we have to be able to adjust. Otherwise, we're just going to get frustrated and then nobody will win, right? And if people aren't learning properly and implementing your content, this might sound blunt and mean, but how valuable is your content then? If your content doesn't get implemented, then your content can't be valuable. So how do we produce implementation in massively distracted humans? That's a really important skill. Yeah, okay, so somebody asked, again, thank you for this. I forgot to mention it. If you're already in BCC, then we'll take your investment in BCC off the price. So you get a $500 discount, and so your price will just be $19.97 to just upgrade to ECCP. So thank you for that. Yeah, the discount code, Tessa, I believe it's this. Michelle will confirm this, I'm sure, in a moment, but I'm going to try to get it first. PIF-BCC, right? Or PPBCC. So that stands for paid in full BCC. So it's the BCC discount if you're going to do the pay in full, and then it'll take that $500 off. If you're going to do the payment plan, the discount code is PP, stands for payment plan, BCC, and then it'll take the payments off of, or it'll take the discount off of the payment plans. So those are the codes. How much of the time will be given to practice and how much of it is theories? And are you monitoring the coaching and giving comments? Are you asking an ECCP? And is it Sitara? Is that how I pronounce your name? Let me know if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. Okay, cool. Then, wait, was that yes to ECCP or yes to your name? If it's not yes to your name, then let's see if you can teach me how to say your, okay, cool. Sitara. I love that name. It's a cool name. I don't know that there's a percentage that I can give you, but the short answer is ample, right? There's a lot of time in this will be, I think, the 11th ECCP that I've done. So over the course of all these ECCPs that I've done on all the guinea pigs, just so you guys could have a really, really good one, right? Over the course of all this time, we've paid attention to what works, what doesn't work, what time needs to be allotted here. We used to teach this on day 4. We need to teach it on day 5 or day 2. And what if we added this to the thing? And what if we pulled this out? So there's been a lot of maneuvering. And what we have is an event that not only is what I believe significantly efficient in what its goal is, which is to provide the transformation I've been talking about and provide your ability to transform humans. But it's also unique because every ECCP we do has a different set of humans in it. It's a different group. And if there's a different group of humans, sometimes that group will demand that something happen on day one that's usually reserved for day 3. And it doesn't come in a verbal demand. It doesn't even come in a conscious demand, but the group determines the trajectory most of the time. So I don't even know when we're going to get to this exact exercise. I just know we're going to get to it. Sometimes we do it day 1, sometimes we do it day 4. And for those of you that are interested in teaching, if you ever want to teach, whether it's online or in person, you know, this could be something that you pay attention to from a modeling perspective as well, is how do we deliver, how do we engage, how do we maneuver, how do we adjust with this kind of work? Because you can't teach a course that's designed to produce coaches who are able to adjust with humans. You can't teach that course in a rigid way because that's out of alignment with the whole point of the course, right? So every course is different. And that's one of the reasons why why I love every single one. It has its own personality. It has its own, it just has its own experiences. It has its own stories. You know, I was telling somebody the other day, when I think of ECCPs in past, you know, some people will go, what about ECCP Atlanta 2017? And I'm thinking Atlanta 2017. Oh, that was her event, or that was that exercise. And so I usually think in terms of the people and the experiences. And it's, you know, so-and-so, this isn't one of them, but it's like, you know, oh, that was David's ECCP, right? I don't know that I've ever had a David in ECCP, but I'm just using that as an example. Like that's what I remember, because each one is its own distinct personality, and it takes on a life of its own. So it's wild. It really is. It's like its own animal that gets co-created by all the people in a room. Yeah. Esther, Nikki, I know you guys will be there. Practice, practice, practice. It's a co-creative, collaborative experience. All right, everyone. We've been on the line for quite a while now. I appreciate all of you being here. I appreciate your energy. You know, the majority of you are still around after over an hour and a half, and I honor you for that. And I really celebrate you for that. I celebrate your attention, especially in the hyper distracted world that I was talking about a moment ago. It's not easy to stay attentive for a long period of time. And I just honor your commitment to this work, to yourself, to the skill set, to the people that you really want to help with. And I would say that most people need to have a drive bigger than themselves in order to succeed in the coaching industry. If your drive is only within your boundaries, meaning you want to do this so that you can make money, you want to do this so that you can prove to somebody else that you're valuable, you want to do this so that you can have a certain experience, it's probably not going to be big enough to overcome and overpower the obstacles that are going to be in your way, especially when you are the product and you are the coach. There's got to be something bigger than yourself. So my invitation to you is, don't just think about what you can do. Don't just think about what you can obtain in the form of clients or whatever business goals you have or whatever money goals you have. Don't just think about your personal gain. Think about your personal give. Think about the transformational ripple that you can put out into the ocean of humanity, and think about what that means to your purpose on this planet. What do you want to do while you're here? That's what I invite you to look through when you consider ECCP as being the right choice or not for you. Right. Michelle said, who needs you to do this work? Who's waiting for you out there right now that you don't know, and they don't know you yet, but they need you? Many of you that choose to do this work, you're literally going to change or save somebody's life a couple of years from now, and you don't know them. If you can source your fuel from that kind of a drive, from that kind of a purpose pull, you got a chance. Now, if you like this video and you want to go even deeper, check out that video. It's the entire first module of our online neurotransformational coaching certification program. In this video, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about human behavior and how this thing called the brain works so that you can not only change your life, but be a phenomenal transformational coach.